Hang in there. It is.
That's Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
Welcome back to The Smylie Show. I'm Charlie Hulme, and I realized that in our last recording of this show, I was slightly erroneous because I thought that was Smiley's last aloha to the Hawaiian Islands. It actually is the case that we're taping this before he flies. So, Smiley, you get a little bit of extra Hawaiian
back,
sunshine.
baby.
We are back. Luau style, baby. Mai Tais. Cue 'em up.
Still in Hawaii. May never leave.
would be great, man. Hey, I really enjoyed that really grainy into the last show, looking at your blown out lit
Beautiful.
window and
God, it's so pretty today.
That's amazing. Well, so Smiley's still in Hawaii. What we have for you all today is a really fun conversation with the other Smylie, Elvis Smylie, the Australian left-handed sensation. How about that? Left-handed golfers, really a hot topic on the show of late.
Yeah, happy to obviously have Elvis on. Met him as a junior when he was an amateur playing at the Aussie Open. That's where I met him. So a lot of fun getting to talk to a kid who I feel like I've watched kind of grow up from afar to win that event. It's pretty dang impressive. And now I think we're going to start seeing this kid on top of leaderboards. At least I hope I do, because I love his last name selfishly. But
yes,
DP World Tour playing in Dubai this week.
He won, of course. He earned his tour card and won back in November of 2024 the BMW Australian PGA Championship. And what I think was his first start on the DP World Tour post earning his card. He's actually played great since. He had a T5 at the ISPS Honda Australian Open, a T14 at the Nedbank Golf Challenge in South Africa, and then, of course, is teeing it up at the Hero Dubai Desert Classic this week. We talked to one player in that field earlier this week, David Ford, playing as an amateur, and now Elvis on the DP World Tour. And fun fact in the process, Smylie, as I was searching for Elvis's page, do you know you have a player page on the DP World Tour website? How about that?
Huh. What did it say? Anything good?
It's got your 2019 result also at the Australian PGA Championship.
Just missed the cut.
Just missed the cut.
Yeah,
you actually didn't play too bad. Yeah.
I didn't play bad. It was close. I was
73-74,
hammering it that week. Absolutely bombing it. I was like lifting my heel up and sending it.
And just, I that's a shame, because like you're close to it. Would have been nice to see, a little May cut down under. Fun place playing down there. What course did they play that on in 19?
Oh gosh, man, they used to play it on the Gold Coast, and I can't remember the name of the golf course. I remember every hole, but do not remember the name. It was okay.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't my favorite. It was totally fine. I kind of had to squeeze drivers out there. I really loved the golf course we played in Sydney. It was I think it was the Australian Golf Club is what it was called. It was a Jack Nicklaus design, so it was very American. So I loved that place, but I am dying to go play on the Sandbelt in Melbourne.
Watching the No Laying Up video, that I think it's Tour Sauce, the name of the franchise, just seeing some of the videos those guys put together down there, it's just, I'm salivating at the prospect of playing down there.
I don't know if I could ever watch those videos, because I just would be so angry about wanting to go and play them. So yes. I think I'll just hold off and experience it for the first time, hopefully at some point.
Yeah, very, very cool place. So we are going to get to that Elvis Smylie conversation here on today's interview, just kind of hit his take on his first event played in 2025 and a Rolex Series event nonetheless. So super cool for him. We have one big piece of golf news that dropped really earlier or later last week, and we wanted to kind of touch on heading into this week, because it's going to be out of the news cycle very soon. And that is some comments that Eugenio Chacarra made, who is a former, I guess not the first former Live Tour player, but the first guy who didn't leave by virtue of relegation or not getting his contract renewed. The first guy who just decided to walk at the end of his, I guess he did have a contract signed with the Fireballs, and there's probably mutual interest in renewing there, but he decided to not keep playing on the Live Tour. And he made some comments in a number of places, but I think the first place to at Flushing at Golf on Twitter, and I'm going to read a few of those to tee up this conversation. He said, and he's 24 years old now. who he won on Live in his 5th start on that tour. And he said, I'm thankful for everything Live has given me. I'm 24 years old. My life is set. I don't know if it'll work out for the best or not, but I know this is what my heart tells me is right. And it works for my motivation to wake up and grind and get better and to say I can be a PGA Tour player one day. I see what it's like to win on the PGA Tour and how your life changes, how you get major access and ranking points. On Live, nothing changes. There is only money. Doesn't matter if you finish 30th or first, only money. I'm not a guy who wants more money. What will change my life is playing in Hawaii and qualifying for the majors, qualifying for the Masters, the Ryder Cup. When I joined Live, they promised OWGR and majors, but it didn't happen. I trusted them. I was the first young guy, then the others came after I made the decision, but OWGR and majors still hasn't happened. I saw you last year when they pulled the bid. It's frustrating, but I'm excited for the new opportunity to see where my game takes me. I'm a winner, and I was never treated like a winner. On the PGA Tour, Ludwig Oberg has 1 win, and I have 1 win on Live. He has 1 win on the European Tour, and I have 1 win on the International Series on the Asian Tour. So we have similar careers, but he has way more experience and plays way more big tournaments, but we have the same wins. We perform similar. What tours I can play on, I have 1. Same with him, but he's the number 6 player in the world, and everyone talks about him. But on Live, I'm the only young guy who's won, and they never talk about me. They always talk about the same guys. He has a variety of other, comments on the topic. He goes on. Maybe we can come back to this about talking about entering the second stage of Q School. They said you can't play. You're banned a year after you played on the Live Golf Tour. He's got some calls this week. He's trying to figure out on the PGA Tour. But just reflecting on what seems like a little bit of regret, and also, hey, bold comp there, buddy. Shoot your shot. Comparing yourself to Ludwig. I'm glad he's got the competitive fire in him. He thinks that's his comparison.
I wish I had like a little tiny violin that I could just play right now for poor, how do you pronounce his name?
Eugenio Shakara. Yes.
For poor Eugenio. My goodness, man. It's unbelievable. The comments that I've read from Live guys, it's just so stupid. These guys are just so out of touch and have no idea like the impact that they've made to the sport. And they think that they are able to do whatever the heck they want and have no consequences of their actions. Now, this is obviously a different scenario because this is important that the PGA Tour, how they handle this, because what they don't want to lose is set a precedent for any young guys coming out of college to go to Live and then, they've never had status on the PGA Tour, but if you allow a guy to then just immediately come take up status with your tour, it allows players the option to, basically skip any of the developmental or the PGA Tour, the beginning of their careers. So I think that's an important aspect. And I think people just don't care, about these comments, because guess what? The money is the reason why the ratings have gone down, and the greed in the sport is why people just have been turned off by it. They just don't like how much money these guys are playing for and how much they talk about it. This kid is 24 years old, has made $16 million. I don't care that this guy hasn't gotten into any event. This is the decision that he made. Now, Ludwig Oberg, on the other hand, PGA Tour U, got up, and then he earned his stripes and got picked by Luke Donald to be on the Ryder Cup team as a guy just coming out. Like, he could have been picked too from Live. I mean, there was an option.
There are reports there that he had some big offers on the table, and he decided to turn those down.
So, love the comp. Also, if I
be bold
while we're sitting here, if we're going to play that game as a one-time PGA Tour champ, I can say, I've won once. Cameron Young hasn't won yet. And here he is getting all of these world ranking points. And looky here, I'm not getting any spots. Nobody's giving me exemptions. I'm sorry, Eugenio. It just hasn't that you didn't quite make the right decision in all this. I'm to the point now with the Live, and I know that they're like working on a way to get these guys back, but they're not paying the same money that they were paying for these guys to go, which is why you didn't see anybody go this offseason. It's so far down the numbers. I don't expect to see any big jumps. And with that being said, it's like, why would the tour should just wait them out and bleed them out at this point? These guys are eventually going to get to a point to where they're like, okay, either my career is over or I've got to leave the Live Golf Tour, and or they get back into these big investments into players, but it's not happening anymore.
The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl, but the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with pro football today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
This Sunday, the Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day, starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, just, in terms of the career comps, as Kyle Porter once put it so eloquently on this show, nobody has ever teed off after Smylie Kaufman in the Masters. So just, things to remember as you're putting together a resume. I'd say that there are a lot of things going on here, right? And I feel, in a sense, for someone like Eugenio, let's zoom out for a second and just look at the current state of Live. And really the current state of the company that puts this whole thing on, and just we're not a finance pod, we're not a math pod, but here are things that have been reported. And if these numbers are not exact, you can fact check me, but this is what I've read. There's been a report that the PIF is planning to make a 12% global cut in their investment and spending across the globe, right? So it has to have a knock-on effect on things, on investments like Live, especially ones that they thought that they were probably going to monetize at a greater rate with a large television contract, with sales of these teams to sponsors. That hasn't really happened the way that they wanted it to. That's piece one. Second piece is, if it was a leverage play that many people said that it was, and then they cut that original framework deal, and then in the time since, nothing really materially has happened. There's been investment from the SSG and the PGA Tour. There's, of course, been this whole regulatory piece from the U.S. government of how much investment they can have in the PGA Tour. And I guess at last report of the stake that they would be getting is 6% in this new thing that was created, PGA Tour Enterprises. So to me, it's like right off the bat, they want to spend less money, and the stake that they're getting in the American version of the game is perhaps smaller than what they thought they were going to get via this leverage play, right? Then to your point on the player acquisitions, this is a tweet from Dan Rappaport, who's with Scratch, just looking at their offseason signings. You had Ben Campbell, who's 33, the world's number 137th player. Luis Masaveu, 22, former world number 16 amateur. He takes Eugenio's spot on the Fireballs. Bubba Watson, who was supposed to be relegated, is back from the relegation zone. Brandon Grace, also supposed to be relegated, is back from the relegation zone. The other one that's been reported is Tom McKibben, who is a protege of sorts to Rory McIlroy, 22-year-old from Northern Ireland, just turned his PGA Tour card through the DP World Tour, but there are rumors around him joining. It's to me, that list doesn't really pop outside of maybe McKibben. And I just wonder what the future state of this league is and when we get this proposed deal across the finish line. Because I don't know when it's going to happen. And I feel like LIV, if they're going to spend less money, they're not bringing any high-profile players anymore. And you have people like Eugenio Shakara effectively raising the warning bells to other young players saying, don't come and do this because you're not going to get the thing you were promised. That's not a great sell. The thing to get back, like Eugenio, I feel a little bit bad for him. I think his crime is being naive. It's coming out of college at whatever he was, 21, 22 years old. Maybe he didn't have the right set of advisors around him. Maybe he was listening too much to people like Sergio Garcia, who do hold a great stature in the game. They're saying, come join my team. It's going to be great. We're going to get points. Don't worry. He should have taken all that with a grain of salt and said, hey, if I don't have a guarantee on the table right now that I'm going to get world ranking points and I'm going to have entry points into majors, maybe if that's a hugely important thing to me, I shouldn't make this jump until I see that thing come to fruition. And so now, of course, he's upset 2 years later that all those things didn't happen, but it's kind of your own fault. It's, listen, you took the actions, you got the 16 mil. These are the consequences on the back end. So we find ourselves in an interesting place. And I think the saddest thing that we've talked about a lot on the show is just that the whole world of pro golf's been fractured in the way that it has. And you have, young tour players like Eugenio that, who knows, he could be competing on a week in, week out basis with Ludwig and being in those tournaments. But we won't know because he spent his first 2 years playing in a closed circuit on LIV. And that's just where it is right now. Yeah.
And to the Tom McKibben deal, that was such an exciting, celebratory deal with him and Rory at the end of the event. I believe it was in Dubai last year where he got his PGA Tour card. Now these heavy rumors that he's going to be going and joining John Rahm's team. And I'm not sure what's the first event on the LIV Golf calendar. Like, what time of the year is it? Isn't
I'll
it
have to look that up right now as you're talking.
Is it like kind of like closer to March or February, like late February?
I remember last year was actually it was around the
Super Bowl.
It's February 6th in Riyadh. Yeah, I remember this last year because we were trying to figure out whether or not Tyrrell Hatton was going to play in the AT&T Pro-Am and then ultimately pulled out.
Well,
yeah.
My thought is on this is like, all right, so a guy who's taking up status with the PGA Tour, let's say he goes and plays 2 or 3 events. Is there, if he goes and joins the LIV, does another player get a card or they just play a man down from that DP World Tour, the top 10? Like, I'd be pissed off if I was the number 11th guy from the DP World Tour and a guy goes and joins LIV. And then the other side of it too is, let's say he goes and finishes top 5 one of those weeks and takes up a lot of points. Now, are those points going to be, awarded back to that field after he leaves and goes to LIV? That's another aspect too that they need to clean up, because you can't have guys playing on the PGA Tour and then leaving mid-year. That's something that bothers me.
Well, that's our most recent LIV check-in. I'm sure there are going to be more updates as we try to hammer this thing out, and hopefully they're nice, optimistic updates that bring the world of golf together. But right now, we are excited about this next interview because this is a rising star on the DP World Tour, Elvis Smylie, another Smylie in the mix, and an SMYLIE Smylie, which is very exciting. So
it's amazing.
Briefly here, Smylie, anything you're looking forward to hearing in this conversation that you want to just get the audience ready to keep their ears tuned for?
Well, I think the coolest part is, talking to a potential, future star in the game at an early age is really cool, to kind of know why a player, decides to turn pro at the age of 17. That's a decision that we really don't see a whole lot in, at least over in the States. A few players have done it. So just to kind of get into these guys' heads, the ups and downs of the experience at the beginning of their professional career. And then, we're kind of catching him right at the beginning of him kind of taking off. So looking forward to seeing what he does. But I think just that aspect, right, is talking to such a young kid, there's so much that can happen for him long term. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what he's able to do. And I think a lot of people are going to come away with this interview really liking Elvis. And of course, who doesn't want to just listen to an Australian accent the whole time? Easy.
The absolute best. This week, you want to wake up early and make a cup of coffee, you can check out Elvis playing in the Hero Dubai Desert Classic. I think most of that will be on Golf Channel. And check out his conversation right now with the other Smylie Kaufman. Here it is.
This Sunday, the Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day, starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl, but the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with Pro Football Today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Smylie Show. And we have a guest I'm really excited about. Really excited about, because it's my namesake. It's the guy that I hope to see on the television screens for many years to come. Because why? He's got my last name, and he's got a cool first name too. We were talking to Elvis Smylie, 22-year-old from Queensland, Australia. Elvis, thank you for joining us, and it's a miracle, an absolute miracle, that we are here at the same time with our time zone issues that we've had on this show. This is fascinating that we both got here at the same time.
Yeah, it's great to be on here, Smylie. Great to chat to you, mate.
Yeah, buddy. All right, so what time is it where you're at now? Where are you?
It's 8 o'clock in the morning here in Sydney. I live on the Gold Coast, but I'm down here for Christmas with a lot of family friends, and I've got my
cup of Joe. A little cup of Joe to start the day, and I got the Seminole mug. What are you rolling with with the mug?
The Wimbledon. That runs in the veins, so I thought it's fitting because you like your tennis as well. So why not?
I grew up on some tennis. I definitely did, and. But not quite to maybe the extent that you grew up on with tennis, which we might as well get straight into. We just actually had Jessica Corder on the show recently, and her parents have some very rooted tennis background similar to your parents. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your parents and their tennis background?
Yeah, so my mum, her name is Liz Smylie. She played under maiden name Sayers when she played back in the 80s, and she's a multiple Grand Slam doubles champion as well as a bronze medalist at, I think it was Seoul. And she's a commentator now, and I think she was 5th in the world in doubles, and she was probably about 20th in singles. So she was pretty good. And then my dad was also a tennis player, so that's how they met. My dad was probably, top 200 tennis player in the world, and my dad actually managed my mum when my dad stopped playing professionally. He got into the sports management side of things. Okay. So that's how they continue their relationship. And I'm actually surprised that they were able to make the business and personal relationship work. So kudos to them.
You see it every now and then with a wife caddying for a player. But yeah, it's difficult to do. So kudos to your parents. But so your dad's last name is Smylie. Do you know the history with your last name, the origin? Because you don't often see Smylie spelled Smylie, especially for a last name. A lot of times you see it Smiley. For me, when I saw your name for the first time, I'm like, yes, this guy will always be a fan of.
Yeah, so my great-grandfather was born in Ireland. That's all I know. So, I think that's where it's originated.
I've always kind of said that I've had Irish roots, but I thought it was from my mom's side with the last name Malloy. But I think I might just roll with Smylie being from Irish roots, and now I can claim being from Ireland, and can always, go to the Guinness and feel like it's home. Which, by the way, you're 20, you're 22 now, so you're good to drink now. So, yeah. But in Australia, what's the drinking age?
Drinking age is 18 here.
You're a seasoned
We're
vet.
Good. Yeah.
Well, your first name, Elvis, also unique. Which one do you get asked about more, Elvis or Smylie? I would imagine probably Elvis because of I assume Elvis Presley was related in this.
Yeah, my dad is a massive Elvis Presley fan, so that's how I got my first name, and it actually started out as a bit of a joke, which was pretty funny. So the story goes along the lines of whenever my mum, when she was in the hospital with me in labor and stuff, and there was people visiting, everyone would make the joke saying Elvis is in the building. And everyone kept going with it. And my dad's like, look, we could actually name him Elvis. And one thing led to another. And
that's on your birth certificate.
Yeah. Elvis is my legitimate name.
Do you have a middle name, or is it just Elvis Smylie?
It's Elvis David.
Elvis David Smylie. Yeah. So my first name's Carter, and for whatever reason we decided to go with my middle name Smylie. My brother's middle name is Lucky. His first name's Connor, and so here we are with pretty normal Carter and Connor American names, and we decided to keep it real and roll with the ones that everybody will always remember.
I like that. That's great.
Well, I've got a quick, as we kind of get out of the name section here, I got to ask you, what is your favorite Elvis Presley song? I mean, you've got to have one, right?
Yeah, all right, you put me on the spot. I love Kentucky Rain. I reckon that's a really good song to build off.
Good. You got to have an answer, right? Because everybody, if your name is Elvis, you can't be like, I've actually never listened to any of his songs. You got to have a go-to answer there. So I was hoping you had one.
Yeah, I got one. It's all good.
The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl. But the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with pro football today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Makes playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
If I were that team and I was the coach, I would have just said, you know what? I'm leaving your ass at home, and you can wait. Well, you can get your own damn plane and fly it to Philadelphia, and then I'll still sit your ass. Zion's got to get himself together on the court, both physically, but mentally by being engaged and being on time.
Only on SportsGrid. This Sunday, the Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day, starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
So in that same, kind of bubble here, we're talking about Elvis, what's your favorite Elvis Presley song? What's your favorite Smylie Kaufman highlight?
Smylie Kaufman highlight. Okay. I've actually been thinking about this for a while. So I've followed you on socials now for quite some time. And I remember you being on the Baker Boy trip with JT, Jordan, and Ricky. And I remember you doing like the live commentary. I remember it was I think you said like somewhere along the lines of like, it's the Konica Minolta Swim Vision camera, and you were doing it with like a palm tree.
That's right.
And you're like, Justin's in a little bit of trouble.
Oh gosh, man.
And then you're like, he's made contact.
We were content creators, Elvis, before all these content creators turned into a profession. We were doing it for fun, posting on our Snapchats way before your millennial age, where this is all you consume is this type of content. We were doing it after a couple of beers and having just a good time on the golf course because figured why not.
And mate, that was honestly one of the best things I've seen on social media so far. Like watching those highlights on a day-to-day basis, it was so cool.
What's even worse is that thinking about just doing some quick math at you being 22 years old, that means you would have been, you'd have been 13 years old. So it makes me kind of feel a little old here, Elvis. Which is okay. It's okay. It's one of the guys I was impersonating too. During all this, the Konica Minolta thing was what I kind of grew up watching with golf coverage with my dad. But one of the commentators who I've become friends with over the years, who I assume that you probably would know just from your time in Australia, would be Ian Baker Finch. And I was always just like, Ian Baker Finch, like that was kind of the commentary. But can you tell me a little bit about Ian Baker Finch or Wayne Grady? I'd read that also John McEnroe was a friend of your parents. During this process of you trying to decide, are you going to turn pro or are you going to stay amateur? Just like you're growing up learning, how to potentially be a professional golfer. Did you take advice from any of these guys that you were able to use kind of as you were building your golf skills?
Yeah, so we'll start with grades. So Wayne Grady, my family has known the Grady family for a very long time. So going back to before I was born, my parents actually lived on the 12th hole at Bay Hill for 20 years. And
wow,
at that time, so Grades was living just down the road from them. And then there was Payne and Tracy Stewart. And then there was other golf families that lived in the same, street as my parents. So, we've known Grades forever, and Grades actually lives on the Gold Coast now with his wife, Lynn, and his daughter, Sam, and, not far away from where we live. So we always go over and catch up with them. And, Grades has been super supportive towards me and my golf. Like every time especially winning the PGA, he won that back in, I think it was like 85 maybe. Yeah, it's not great if I get that wrong, but
it doesn't matter.
he was one of the first guys to text me after I won that, and that was pretty special. So, and then in terms of Finchy as well, like I've known Finchy for quite some time now. He's the chairman of the PGA of Australasia, and obviously coming through the ranks, he's always been a great mentor for me because growing up as a kid, I would watch him, and the way he putted was just phenomenal. And I hope to be able to replicate the way that he can putt into my game as well.
And is the John McEnroe thing, are y'all family friends with John?
Yeah. So funny story, my dad and John McEnroe both saw Elvis front row, at one of the, it was like during a tournament and Elvis was playing nearby. So they went and watched him together. So my dad and John have known each other for forever. They used to compete against each other, and I haven't had the privilege to meet John yet, but John was quite a gritty guy, according to my dad. So.
Well, if you ever need to work on your temperament and just controlling your anger or anything, you can always call John. He can give you some good advice when it comes to that.
I do need a bit of fire, though. I will say that. So I think John would be good for that.
Oh, man. Well, yeah. Elvis, you and I were introduced to each other by your mom, Liz. She came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder at the Australian Open in Sydney. And she said, "Hey, my name is Liz Smylie, actually. And my son, Elvis, who's an amateur playing this week, he'd like to meet and take a picture with you." I'm like, heck yeah. And that was kind of where our friendship started. And so I've kept up with you over the years. And I guess that event was in 2019. And I guess a couple years later is where I saw, this is February in 2021, that you did make the decision to turn professional. So lead me up to that point when you're turning pro at 18 years old. I meet you when you're 16 years old. So talk to me about the years from 16 to 18 years old. What gave you the confidence to make that decision and make the leap and go ahead and turn pro?
Yeah, so the year that I played the Australian Open in 2019, I met you. In order for me to have gotten into that field, I won the Australian Junior Championship, which was an exemption. So that was my first time playing like a big event. It was the same year as the President's Cup field was down here as well. So there was a lot of international guys and a lot of really good American guys that came down and played that. So it was a stacked field, and just being in that environment and realizing that this is what I want to do for a career, and meeting you as well, it was just like an icing on the cake,
it was fun.
Yeah. Going after that, I mean, just before I turned pro in 2021, it was obviously a tricky time with COVID, and golf here in Australia was doing a really good job with continuing to put the tournaments on so we could stay competitively sharp. And there was this event called the WebEx Player Series events, which there was 4 of them in the Australian calendar. And it's a men's field, a women's field combined, and you'd play on the same course for the same prize money.
Oh, wow.
And I played that in January of 2021, and that was my last event as an amateur. And I shot 63-63 on the weekend to finish at 16 under par and lose by 1 shot to the eventual winner, Brad Kennedy, who's a seasoned vet, and he's played really well on the Japanese tour. And that gave me the confidence knowing that, the fact that I'm competing as an amateur in, doing really well as an amateur in high level professional events, it gave me the confidence knowing that I can do this for a career and that I was ready. And I turned pro in March 2021, and my first 3 starts I finished tied 3rd, miscut, and 2nd to get my card on the Australasian tour. So I had somewhere to play, which was great.
That's huge. And I'm going to back you up just before that, because there was a scholarship that you received. I guess it's called the Cameron Smith Scholarship. And this was back in 2019. So very similar time to when I met you, that you were granted the scholarship. And based on what I read, it's that it's given, young Australian players, it's Australian, not Australian. I got to give my accent right here for someone who's spent some time over there, because you got to say Australian, not Australian. So anyways, I read that. So basically you get the funds to be able to go and get the experience in Florida to, is Cam there to practice and play with, or is it just having the opportunity to get some different coaching? What exactly was the scholarship?
Yeah. So every year Cameron Smith hands out a scholarship to 2 Queenslanders. So the state that I'm from in Australia, to go over and spend a week with him in Jacksonville, Florida, where he was living
that's
at
really
the time.
cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. And so it was myself and another lefty. So there was 2 of us, and we got to spend a week with Cam, got to stay at his place, got to practice at TPC Sawgrass, got to compete against him, just see what life was like being, one of the best golfers in the world. And to get that glimpse at such a young age is something that, that kind of experience you can't buy. And Cam's been a great advocate for growing the game here in Australia and being a great role model for young people like myself to come through and continue to get better. But it's amazing what that door has opened from 2019 all the way through to present.
This Sunday, the Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day, starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
The NBA will take center stage once football stops, and people will watch the NBA playoffs and all that. But the standings are whacked out in the Western Conference. Like Oklahoma City, Memphis, and the Houston Rockets are the best teams in the conference.
You want to talk about a team with overs and no defense? The Wizards are your team. It's unbelievable. They can't make a total high enough. It's nuts.
Sports Rage tonight, weeknights 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this, I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text, put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. When he texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe, like, it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book. The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl, but the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with Pro Football Today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Well, tell me about that Open Championship experience, man. Like, was it, when you got out there, I imagine there was a lot of buildup and anticipation, I'm sure, just mentally. But when you got out there, did you feel comfortable? Did you feel like this is something, that you can continue to, evolve your game to get to a position where you're competing in these major championships one day?
Yeah, definitely. Going back to that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday lead up, I got to play a couple of practice rounds with Jaco Neiman, Adam Scott, Victor Hovland, and it was pretty cool just being in their presence and just seeing how they go about their stuff, and especially Adam Scott.
He's the best.
Someone I've looked up to since I was very little, and I still remember where I was when I watched that 2013 Masters victory, and
I think about his Players Championship that he won at Sawgrass. Like, that was like his coming out party. He was young then, but that was, he was wearing the Burberry clothing. He had the kind of the Adam Scott fro at the time. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of his.
Yeah. So, going back to Thursday, I teed off at about 11 o'clock and the weather was all over the shop. So the prevailing wind at Royal Troon is down off the right for the first 6 holes, and then the next 6 kind of spiral, and then the back 6 end up going straight back to the clubhouse. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the wind was down off the right, prevailing wind, and then as soon as the tournament comes about, the first 6 holes play into off the right. So it immediately goes from the 6 easiest holes to make your score on to pretty much the 6 hardest holes to kickstart your round. So I think I was, I can't remember exactly, but I wasn't playing amazing. I was kind of hanging in there. There was a couple of holes where I just racked up big numbers on because I just got out of position, and the rough there is absolutely brutal.
Oh, gosh. It was an epic Open Championship. So let's kind of fast forward to what has been, kind of the coming out party for Elvis Smylie, which is the last, 3 months, where October you go and win, and then a month later you win on the DP World Tour. So just talk to me about winning. Was it the Western Australian Open? Is that the event? and then a month later winning the Aussie PGA, which is just like one that I'm sure you've dreamt of winning.
Yeah. So going back to October this year, I knew that, again, like all the great work that I've been doing with my team around me, I knew that it put me in good stead, because as each month has gone on this year, I've felt more and more comfortable with how I'm moving, and I really do feel like I'm making a lot of great progress in that area. So I get to there was a tournament before the WA Open. It was called the WA PGA, and that was in a place called Kalgoorlie, which was about 2 hours. It's about 2 hours inland from Perth, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and it's just complete desert.
Okay.
And I end up having a 3-shot lead with 2 to go on the Saturday in the third round, and I finish bogey double to fall back in a share for the lead going into the last day, and I think I shoot 3 under in the last round to miss a playoff by 1. And that was like a bit of a kick in the teeth, because I knew that everything was great. My game felt great. I was in a great position on Saturday to continue to, ride that into Sunday, and I just didn't quite get it done. So I went back to Perth, which is like a 2-hour flight from Kalgoorlie. I played the WA Open, which is down at Mandurah, which is on the south side of Perth.
Okay.
And I actually didn't start preparation until Wednesday at that course, because I flew to Adelaide on the Monday night because I'm a proud BMW ambassador, and BMW had what they call a Golf Cup national final for all the amateurs that had bought BMWs throughout the middle of the year. It's like the dealer's way of putting on a tournament for all the customers, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I fly out of Perth, and it's nice because I'm kind of getting away from it a bit and thinking about something else. So I was in Adelaide from Monday night to Tuesday night, and everything was just a quick turnaround, but I was in a different environment. I was socially interacting with all the customers. I wasn't really thinking about the previous week. I got to drink a nice bottle of Penfolds. I quite like my red wine. So Adelaide's like the pinnacle of red wine and Penfolds.
Well, that'll make you forget about a finish that you didn't want. So there you go.
Exactly. So anyway, flew back to Perth on the Wednesday, and I only got to walk 18 because the Pro-Am was on and I wasn't in the Pro-Am. So I walked 18, and I'd only played the course once before that week. So I walked 18, and then I teed it up on Thursday, and I got off to a great start. I actually can't remember. I remember I shot 19 under for the week, and I remember the last day very clearly, because the last day the weather completely turned south. It was wind, it was rain. The green started to flood. There was multiple rain delays, and anyway, ended up winning in a playoff, and that was amazing to get over the line there. And it's like I always believed that I could win. I just never knew when. When the time would come.
Yeah, no, that's coming off a week where you put yourself in contention, don't get it done. Next week you're able to flush it out with some good wine in Adelaide. You have a great week. You win in a playoff, and now we go to the Aussie PGA. Which was that your next start, or did you have something in between there?
I had about 4 Australian events or 5 Australian events in between that I continued to play.
Okay, so you just kept playing golf, and you show up to the Aussie PGA. Tell me about that week. I know it was a rain shortened week, but still plenty of stars there. Cameron Smith, Mark Leishman, a couple guys that beating those guys any week in Australia. I'm sure you're just like, okay, I played some great golf, but you went on to win the event. Just tell me about how cool it was. Not only to get the win, and that would be was Queensland, would that be considered your hometown win?
Yeah, 100%.
Man, that's so cool.
I mean, it was pretty. It was a pretty cool Sunday. Going back to it, obviously being in the final group with Cam Smith and Mark Leishman, guys that I've both grown up watching on TV and idolized. So cool. In front of a Queensland crowd. The weather was amazing. It was such a great turnout. The crowds were probably 3 or 4 deep, and it was one of the coolest experiences. And going head to head with Cam, especially, was really cool, especially after the Cameron Smith scholarship and knowing Cam for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It was just such a cool day. And they were both so interacting as well. Like whenever we would hit great shots, everyone was always complimenting each other. Like it wasn't too serious. They were quite calm, quite composed. So it actually helped the energy levels, you know?
Yeah, the nerves, right? Like they weren't stoning you that day. They didn't leave you on an island and fight for yourself.
No, that was right. That was really good.
The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl, but the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with pro football today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid. This Sunday, the Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day, starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Did you get some good support on that Sunday?
I did actually, yeah. So the first couple of holes, I got off to a really good start. I birdied my first 2 holes.
Okay.
Just to settle the nerves, and then I birdied 6 and 7 as well. So I was 4 under through 7 on the day, and I think I had a 3-shot lead at the time. And Cam was obviously playing pretty well. He was pretty steady. He was only 2 behind, 3 behind, and then on the back 9, I started to, hit it sideways, right? Or I don't want to, I'll try.
You're just trying to win. You're trying to win
flat.
the tournament you've dreamt about winning, and you're doing it at home. It's not easy to do.
No, there's a lot of people that actually have said in news articles and stuff, there's a tale of 2 nines. He played like Hogan on the front 9 and played like Seve on the back. And that's exactly how I feel like I can sum it up, because the back 9, I made 6 from 6 up and down. So I was missing greens left, right, and center. And my short game was world class. It was so good. And I looking back, I'm far out. That was actually pretty good. I surprised myself, some of the shots that I was hitting. Because around Royal Queensland, you have to get quite creative. There's a lot of undulation, a lot of slope. Yeah. And there's a couple of times where I was bumping running like a 3-wood. And it's just a shot that I feel really comfortable with. And it was just such a cool back 9, because I had to grind every single shot out, and it was just exhausting, but we found a way.
Yeah, nobody really knows how difficult it is to win, especially something that you want to win very badly. And then playing against guys who, yes, Cameron Smith and Mark Leishman want to win, but they've done it before. They've got plenty of money in the bank account. They have a place to play. And not to say that you don't, but winning this event sets you up so nicely for the rest of your career, because now you're set up. It was a DP World Tour event. Or co-sanctioned, I should say. Is that correct? Yeah. So where now you have full DP World Tour status, and I assume an exempt category that gets you into most of their best top events. Is that safe to say? I'm not sure exactly how the exempt status works with the DP World Tour.
Yeah, correct. So I get full status for 2 years on the European tour. So I get pretty much every event that I want to play, which is cool.
So all the Rolex Series events, we'll expect to see your name in those.
Yeah, I'll be there. So I'll kick things off in Dubai. And
how about that, man? There. Come on, let's just talk about this, right? Like you make the decision at an early age to turn professional. Did you have any doubts along the way to before winning at the Aussie PGA? Did you have doubts like, am I ever going to make it? Did I turn pro too early? Was I ready? Did those thoughts ever enter your mind?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think turning pro at 18 is pretty young, and I didn't necessarily. I wasn't too concerned about having like a stellar amateur career because it just didn't interest me. I just wanted to make sure that everything I did as an amateur prepped me as well as it could in order for me to turn pro when the time was right. And I believe, and I still do believe, that was the right time for me to turn. I wanted to learn as much as I could at a young age at the highest level in the professional ranks. And I felt like it's been those couple of years in between where I did get injured. I missed multiple cuts in a row on the European tour. It's all been a blessing in disguise to get me to the position I'm in now. And I just couldn't be more grateful for that. Yeah. All the experiences I've had.
Well, what are you looking most forward to on the DP World Tour this year? Which event is it? Is it a place that you're going to travel to? Is there anything that's jumping out when you look at the schedule and the calendar?
Yeah, I mean, number one is obviously the players that I'm going to be able to compete against, especially that first week in Dubai. I know it's going to be a star-studded field, and it's just going to be great to rub shoulders with those kind of guys. And then the places I'll get to travel to, I mean, I've always loved Wentworth. I've always loved watching it on TV. Mm-hmm. So to be able to go there, like the home of the DP World Tour, like where all the castles are, like I just think it's the coolest thing ever. So yeah, Wentworth will be cool. And then the Italian Open's in Tuscany this year. Oh, sorry, in the 2025 season. So
you can find a good bottle of wine there too. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the list will go on. So I just can't wait for it all to start.
And I mean, I can't imagine that the PGA Tour was even on your brain, earlier this year. But now the DP World Tour gives 10 cards to members who aren't already exempt onto the PGA Tour. Is that something that you now can have your mind wander to? Is potentially playing on the PGA Tour one day?
Definitely, that's my goal. Yeah, to finish top 10 on the Race to Dubai standings and earn a PGA Tour card.
There you go. I mean, this was great, Elvis. I got to wake up, drink a cup of coffee with you. It's currently 3:40 p.m. here. I drink coffee to try to get a little bit energy late in the day to, get that jolt that's needed as a dad, just to kind of get you through to bedtime. But for you, you're just getting your day started in Australia, and we're very thankful for your time. We're so pumped to watch you this year in 2025. We're going to see you a lot at these DP World Tour events.
The Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day, starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because it's parody. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. only on SportsGrid. The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl, but the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with pro football today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day, only on Sports.